Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Repentance. It's not Afterbirth Plus. It's Repentance. It's not the Binding of Isaac Flash version. It's not Children of Morta. It's not Stone Shard. It's not reacting to the reaction to a true crime documentary. It's simply Judas to the Lamb. Look at that. That is, I mean, that's as good as it gets. Sometimes maybe you're in a different city. They're famous for having cheeseburgers that are cooked in a slightly different way. Maybe you're in upstate Connecticut and you want to get one of those famed steamed hamburgers. You got to mix it up, but every once in a while, it might surprise you. But every once in a while, I, as an adult, I say to myself, you know what? Let's not get exotic tonight. Let's get a fried chicken sandwich. Maybe I'll get a little exotic on the side, you know, throw some peanut greens in there or something like that. What is a peanut green? It's a salad with some, like, crushed peanuts on top of it, basically. I got nothing against the fries, like, it, you know, and this is really just an instructive lesson, I think, as we start, you know, spiraling here, trying to come up with an anecdote at 8:41 a.m. on a Thursday morning. I'm having a great day, by the way, so far. Nothing negative about that. Just trying to figure out conversationally where we're gonna land. I don't get the salad with the fried chicken sandwich in order to pretend to be a healthy eater. The way that it actually works, in my opinion, is that the older you, in my experience, I guess I should say, the older you get, the more concessions you have to make to stay in the same spot when it comes to food. So I remember, you know, I was, I wake up. Yeah. Oh, you son of a... I wanted those consumables, man. When I was a kid, you know, until maybe like the age of 14, I was pretty chubby. And, I always, you know, I mean, you're 14. What do you want people to say, right? Or what do you want a kid to say about, like, their own health? They don't understand it that well. I thought it was like a genetic predisposition, and then when I got older, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's just at the time I was drinking like 4 glasses of fruit juice from concentrate every single day and eating 0.5 to 1 entire box of wheat thins in a single sitting. But even then, an entire childhood of, you know, mindlessly snacking, which had great psychological benefits, I think, at least in terms of my overall relaxation. Maybe affected my triglycerides, I don't know. A couple of months of good habits, it was like erased, more or less, at least on the outside. Now, as in my 30s, and this is like not even old, quite frankly, but in my 30s, I gotta really, like, tighten up. Like, you know, you can still have the sandwich, but maybe if you want to stay in the same place you're at physically, you might have to dump the french fries for something a little bit more health conscious. Which is why I get mad when I see all these, like, men in their 50s who are ripped. Because I'm like, not only is it like a body flex, the older I get, the more I realize it's also like a mental flex. And it's not to say that people who are, you know, in great physical shape are necessarily, like, mentally stronger than people who aren't. But it does mean, I think, that at least for now, they're mentally stronger than I am. I'm just thinking, I think I'll buy a 3-cent Spirit Heart. I really wanted to open those consumables, but because I think if you want to be yoked in your 50s, and we're going to the lamb, okay. You have to have, like, a pretty airtight diet, I think, which I guess airtight is kind of a weird phrase to use there. Or alternatively, I mean, maybe additionally, it would help if maybe you worked for a movie studio that could just slip you, like, testosterone replacement on the side, which is, I'm not saying is, you know, a cure-all. I'm just saying that it does seem like in a lot of situations, You know, you get a role as an action star unexpectedly, and then all of a sudden you show up in the next movie, and your jaw is like 2 inches wider than it was in the movie that you did 2 years ago, and you just find yourself saying, huh, okay. I understand it, don't get me wrong. I'm getting out of my depth here talking about stuff that I don't really know. I don't work in Hollywood for the most part. I did go to Hollywood once to preview Hitman 2. There was an event in Hollywood. I got to play the Miami level. Everybody else that was at the event clearly knew, and I played a ton of Hitman 1. I was just never great at it until maybe later. Dude, I like him up thesis. Give him one of those. Everybody else was like setting up these complicated kills, you know, I threw a coin to the edge, pushed you into the elevator shaft, silent assassin, and I was just like, I got a didgeridoo, and I'm smacking you in the back of the head. I knew it. That's the worst part about it is I saw it coming. Anyway. The closest I ever came to having any connection whatsoever with Hollywood is I got this email that was like, it's from this guy, I think he was trying to copy my name because his name was Ryan, and he was like, hey, you're like my favorite streamer, I'm making a movie, it's called Free Guy, Jacksepticeye's gonna be in it, Pokemon's gonna be in it, I think Ludwig's in it, I'm not sure. And I said, hey, how'd you get this email address? Stop emailing. This is not very smart. Stop emailing me, you scammer. And he said, I'm not a scammer, I'm Deadpool. I said, a likely story. Anyway, so like that, it's a joke. That never happened. Let's get deals with the angel. That seems like a more appropriate way to tackle this. I'll go down to the next floor. I'm not sweating it yet. This run is actually really good, mostly because of Book of Revelations, but it will stand to get even better. The actual closest I ever came to Hollywood is like when, excuse me, sir, when Machinima got bought by Warner Brothers during the consolidation phase where the YouTube MCNs went, and the YouTube MCNs were basically just like, they're like the networks that people signed with in order to get monetization before the YouTube partner program was open to everybody. It's one of the weirdest like industry stories of all time. The first MCNs were just like invited by YouTube to give monetization to other people because they had big channels, and then after that, you know, I think people started to realize there was like big money here. Polaris got bought by Disney, or Maker Studios, I should say, got bought by Disney. Machinima got bought by Warner Media. I'm trying to think. There must be some more. I mean, there's still some of those companies are still like actually like publicly traded, like Broadband TV and stuff like that. Anyway, long story short, Warner Brothers bought Machinima, and then like once every 3 months for the rest of until they divested. Once every 3 months, I would get an email that was just like, I'm not saying it was a nasty email to get, but it was like a little bit like, thanks for the offer, but what you're suggesting is impossible. And the email would be something like, hey, there's a red carpet premiere tonight for Aquaman down at, you know, Grauman's Chinese Theater in West Hollywood. Are you interested in coming in 2 weeks? Just let us know. And, you know, you're like, well, probably not, but like, would you guys cover my flight? And then they're like, oh, absolutely not. This is really just like a common courtesy to make you feel like this is some justification for the reason, for the fact that we take a little bit of the revenue off the top of your YouTube videos, but basically play no role in actually creating them. And I said, that's okay. I don't really want to pay, you know, like $1,000 to see Aquaman. I got nothing against it, but I mean, I've had a couple of opportunities to see it on the movie channels. Those are only like $20 a month, and even still, I was like, you know, maybe I'll just do the dishes instead. But I'm very plugged into the Vancouver scene. Oh, man. You don't even... I've probably seen a full episode of Arrow just from living in the city. I've never seen it on... Ooh, the rare, great golden trinket that actually has an impact when doubled. We're never going to get hit again, so I'm not sure if it's going to give us much value there, but... yeah, you see the CW stuff get made all the time over here. We really are a hotbed. I'll stick with this. So, you know, dance with the one who brought you, right? It really is a hotbed here of, like, shows set in America but filmed in Vancouver for currency and tax-based reasons, I think. I mean, I'm not knocking the shows at all, to be frank with you. Give me a bomb just in case we get an angel statue. You know, also a lot of actors here. I mean, just people that work in the film industry, caterers, etc., etc. There's a Vancouver film studio, which also has a game design program. We got there's some stuff. We got another unicorn the other day. It's weird because we're like a tech-ish city. We only have one unicorn, or until recently we only had one unicorn, which is a tech company worth like $1 billion, and it was Hootsuite, which I never really even understood because I thought that Hootsuite was literally just like I'm trying to think. It's not middleware, but like I thought it was like a third-party interface that you use to like schedule tweets and Facebook posts, and I was like, this isn't worth $1 billion, but you know, what do I know? It's getting a little tight in here. I'm really trying to resist using this bomb though. We had another one pop up recently. I don't know what it was. I'm using my bomb and I'm wasting my bomb. Whatever. Why do I care if we even get a key piece? Like, we're not fighting Mega Satan. I mean, we might choose to for fun, but one of the rare times I wish I'd stuck with Book of Belial here. It's a good item when you got no other options. If you got, you know, options, not there's options, but, you know, literally if you have the opportunities to make some selections. Help. We didn't get it anyway. I guess I'm happy. Let's peep the curse room real quick and then we'll leave. We're not going slow. It just feels slow because we're a character that normally goes pretty fast. So anyway, yeah, that's what's up. How am I doing? I'm doing well. It is we did get it. I think Hallowed Ground is a little bit better, even though I tend to just break the poop right away. I'm telling you, that's mindless accident, not intention. I'm doing well. Not that much going on, like anecdotally, but I watched a documentary on Netflix last night. You know what I love in a Netflix documentary is when the documentary is about like an event that happened. Like the one that I watched was called Untold, the Malice at the Palace, and it's about a bizarre event in the NBA. You know what? This is free money, right? Let's go. It's about, and that could spawn an arcade for us on the next floor, which could be the thread we need to pull on to make the whole sweater unravel. Whoa, hey. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Just give it a sec. I definitely do want to fish for quad shot. This floor is going to be great for us. 25% chance. Please, we're guaranteed on this one because of the power of the Riemann sum. Okay, whatever. Screw you. But yeah, it was a bizarre event in NBA history, and I'm not an NBA fan necessarily. I'm not against it, but I just, you know, I've never really found much occasion to watch. But I remember as a teenager, this was like international news that the sports networks played clips of for, you know, months, really, even years. It was almost like, and late night hosts were cracking jokes about it constantly. Even me as like a 14-year-old kid, or maybe 15-year-old kid who was a non-NBA fan from relatively rural Canada, I had an opinion on Ron Artest and you know, Ben Wallace as a result of of this event, heavily influenced by the media. But anyway, there was a big fight basically at the basketball game. That's the long and short of it. But what makes it particularly noteworthy is that the fans threw like a beer at one of the players, and then that player like instantly jumped the half boards to get into the stands and just started cold cocking the people that he did. I mean, there's implications in this story, and watching it, you're like, it's quite somber because it had an impact on like all the players' lives and reputations for sure, which might be like, and this is definitely how it was presented when I was a kid, but it was like, well, what do you expect? They're paid like $1 billion a game, and then they're not supposed to, mess with the fans who actually pay their bills, and that's physical assault. And you're like, yeah, that's true, but at the same time, they were also physically assaulted by the fans who started throwing stuff out of the stands at them. And I'm not saying they should have retaliated physically. I mean, obviously in hindsight, they would have not done that. But, in the moment, tensions are running hot to begin with. Someone, basically assaults you. You might find yourself feeling differently if you find yourself in that situation. But I love in those documentaries when they're about, like, a specific event, and then, like, it's an hour and a half long, and an hour in, after providing context, they give you the event. It's just such a great, like, it's a documentary trick. Not in a bad way, mind you, but, like, you find yourself looking like Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, pointing at the screen. That's it. That's the Malice in the Palace. That's Chappie. An item room on Shoal, kind of an interesting situation here. Wouldn't you? What, lucky us? I'm willing to do it, and I think that this will work for us. We're gonna get an angel deal here, in all likelihood. Anyways, just interesting to watch all this stuff that. Really, because the thing is, sometimes people, and again, this is not genuinely, like, complaining, but sometimes people, well, I'll be talking about, like, the culture of the mid-2000s, and, like, chat will blame me, and I'm like, I was a teenager, you are, you have an impact at the culture, or on the culture as you get older, for sure, but simultaneously, like, a lot of this stuff from the mid-2000s that's regrettable, whether it's like, pre-frayed trucker hats or, questionable language and stuff like that. This is like 40, 50-year-old people and older that, like, worked in television trying to capture the zeitgeist of people that, like, 2 years ago were in middle school, right? Like, I take no responsibility for that. But watching, like, 2021 documentaries about these pretty famous events that happened when I was, in middle school or high school, and getting a much... First off, looking at, like, mid-2000s or 90s even, media with 2021 eyes and being like, man, at the time I didn't think this was, like, weird. But obviously looking at it with modern standards, you go, like, in some ways we've come a long way, but in some ways we're probably doing the same mistakes, but just in a different way that's hard to notice now because we're in it as we speak. I mean, quad shot's pretty important. Let's focus on that for now. So yeah, I mean, like, there was a lot of talk in the media at the time about how, like, there was, like, a thug mentality in the NBA, and looking back, you're like, that's pretty messed up for a number of reasons, not least of which is literally, like, they didn't throw the first stone. Like, the guys in the stands were chucking, beers at them, and then on top of that, they actually, like, one, or actually more than one, fan actually, like, jumped the half-boards themselves to come onto the court to try to, like, get engaged with the fight. And what's really funny, I think, is that in the documentary, like, the NBA players are generally, for the most part, like, remorseful over their role in the event. Where's my item? Oh, there it is. Appreciate the quad shot. Appreciate the golden bomb. They're, like, generally remorseful for their role in this. And then, like, one of the fans who was involved, it gives an interview in 2020 or 2021, whenever it was filmed, and is just like, he's clearly still salty over the fact that, like, the Detroit Pistons organization wasn't there for him. He's like, they really didn't do right by a super loyal fan. And you're like, buddy, you hopped the boards and tried to, like, you know, get in a fist fight with a professional athlete. Would you think they're going to be like, oh, thanks for being a season ticket holder? Like, and it's not, like, mistakes happen, right? That's just, like, human nature. But the fact that 10 years after, or 17 years after the event, you don't look back on that, you know, with a wiser mind and the benefit of hindsight and be like, you know, we could have handled that differently. Instead, you're just like, you know, the organization really didn't treat its fans well that day by not standing up for me when I tried to fist fight an opposing team's star player. But anyway, I was thinking about that when I was watching the Saving Britney Spears or whatever the New York Times documentary was about the Free Britney movement. And, you know, I'll admit that I was guilty of kind of looking at it with, you know, a man who's approaching middle-age cynicism about, like, and, you know, this ties into stuff as well, like stan culture, and I have a predisposition whenever people, like, start to do what I would perceive as meddling in the lives of celebrities to immediately think, like, hey, don't do that. But then, you know, when I'm watching the documentary, I realized, like, I was just super wrong about it, actually, for one. And also looking back and realizing the extent to which the media did, like, treated, and she's very famous, and she got very wealthy off of this, but still treated Britney Spears with, like, an incredible level of disrespect, for sure. And I think it's easier to see it as an adult, because as a kid, you're just like, you know, whatever the adults are saying on the news, it makes sense. Sure, like, of course, Barbara Walters, one of the most respected journalists in the United States of America, is asking, like, a 21-year-old Britney Spears about her relationship with Justin Timberlake. Like, that's international news. Nowadays, I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Why are you grilling Britney Spears on whether she's had you know, relations with somebody? She's like, first off, is private. Secondly, she's like, you know, basically a child still. But I think, you know, your perception changes as you get older. But we'll take Compass here. Anyway, I guess I'm just going off. I don't really care for that blood bank. Like, we're in such a good spot here at this point. That was a good floor for us. It's just, it's weird to look back on the stuff that happened like 20 years ago, and you thought at the time it was normal, but then when you look back as an adult, you're kind of like, how could the adults let this happen, I guess. But then it also makes you, you know, wonder, because I think inevitably there will be stuff like that that's happening right now that will be like, how did that ever get let to have happen? And what's strange about it is that my hypothesis, at least, is that there are probably many things like that now, but what determines which ones we actually, you know, with the benefit of hindsight in 20 years, which ones we find, like, grossly inappropriate, probably just depends on the direction that, you know, public opinion and discourse takes. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff from the 90s that, you know, people still think of, maybe myself included, as normal now, only because the culture window hasn't shifted in such a way to, you know, bring it back to the forefront of public consciousness. But so anyway, do you think, like, a hot dog is a sandwich? Sure. I'm just messing. It's just, you know, it's interesting to... I like watching these documentaries about... that provide a lot more context to events that you actually lived through. There's some that, you know, when you watch a documentary about something that happened you weren't alive for, it can still be really interesting. Like Wild Wild Country is such a... whether you know, respect the way that they portrayed some of the people in that documentary, it's just a super interesting event that, you know, I had no idea actually had taken place. This is Bookworm. So watching that and watching it get, like, increasingly absurd was eye-opening. But then these events that you've, like, lived through, being able to see them through like a different lens, it really rounds out, like, your memory of it, for sure. Like, now when I think about the Malice in the Palace, which admittedly doesn't happen that often, But the narrative I had in my head, which is, oh, Ron Artest just went crazy, you know? The narrative I have in my head is like, well, you didn't, you know, what would you do in that situation if... I mean, I would like to think that I probably wouldn't jump into the stands, but on the other hand, maybe if I... Mostly because I'd probably get my butt kicked, but if I was a professional athlete, maybe I'd be like, you know... I've been looking for a reason to... You guys have been booing me all night, and all of a sudden you physically assault me. Now it's, you know, it's time for some quid pro quo. Follow the money. Anyway, that's just... So I you know, that was like an hour and a half of viewing. And look at that. We got like 20 minutes of banter out of it. We should definitely break this. You gotta babysit this one. Let's go. Regular box. They don't drop stuff on the spikes. I'm still, and hopefully I never get over it, but oh, they did drop something on the spikes, actually. I love a red card. It still gives me, it fills me with, like, the idea that it's Christmas morning. Because the red card, there's a lot that do nothing, but then there's some that can definitely have a big impact. That's about all I got, anecdotally, when it comes to Netflix. Hanged Man turns player into the keeper for 3 seconds. Free coins. Basically, the item description should just say free coins. I do need to, like, free time's been at a bit of a premium. That's not the point of the bit, but free time has been at a little bit of a premium lately. So I haven't had a chance to watch What If, but I heard that What If is pretty good. I also need to, you know, acknowledge taking the L a little bit. At least, it's hard to tell because official reviews haven't come out and the movie doesn't come out for a little bit. But I made the bold claim based on the Shang-Chi Legend of the Ten Rings trailer that I thought it might be a rare Marvel misstep. It just didn't look as compelling to me as some of the other stuff. Almost all, in fact, maybe legitimately, all of the reaction that I saw to the first screening was, like, glowing. It happens sometimes, like, if you go back and you look at when they screened, like, The Phantom Menace for media, people were, not universally, but largely breathless in their praise for Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So I'm not going to say that it necessarily guarantees that the movie's great, but, you know, it more or less means that I think my prediction that it would kind of be stinky is not true, which is great. Maybe I just wanted it to be kind of stinky because the odds of my wife and I making it to the theater anytime soon are probably pretty low. Maybe there was a little bit of, like, subconscious stinky desire there, but... Happy to see it. More good movies, if indeed that is what that ends up being. More good movies is good. I'm still the keeper, right? I'm not the... It only lasts for a room? No. I was... Because I didn't see coins appear above my head as my HP. I was, like, slightly concerned, but... It's good money, man. We've been kind to our donation machine. Like, we're doing great work. I think, at least. Let's not and say we did. Honestly, look, I'm gonna take it. It's gonna cause me to take damage. Firemind apparently is a speed upgrade. I'm sure many people knew that, but I didn't. I'm gonna say that at this point that's better than Swallowed Penny, which has been really good for us, but will not maintain that standard moving forward. Because we have less things to spend money on. If we can't, I mean, I really, obviously, I think, you know, wanted to open some of these rooms, but it's not always going to be possible when you waste your keys on dumb things. I will say Firemind and Hemoptysis are not going to work too well together. We got to kind of make a decision on that, and I think we should stick with Firemind. Firemind will hit us, but and probably a lot. And enough to make you question why we took it in the first place. The reason I'm taking it really just boils down to the fact that our damage is still only 4.72, which is relatively disappointing. When we probably started at 4.72. We don't need the money. Just move on. So the Cinderella story for us here would be if we could maybe get... Well, we're taking the negative, so that's going to help. But imagine if this trinket allows us to actually get, like, offensively potent to the standards of, like, where we're at in the run. Then I would feel vindicated in taking the trinket. If we get, like, the pitcher of lemonade or whatever, I'll probably end up feeling a little bit, not betrayed, but, you know, just a slight frustration. Permanent stat boost whenever you pick up a spirit heart. Okay, well, in that case, take advantage of this. Take advantage of this. An attempt was made. That's fine. No tinted rocks. I mean, it's very small stat boost, but still. I'll take what I can get. All right, so we do... Excuse me, does this not... I merely need to consult with the Elder Gods. A treasure room and shop in Shoal. In Shoal. I got Shoal upcoming, but I'm not a soldier. Hey everybody, welcome back. I don't care for a secret room. So if there's any more documentaries about things that happened between the years like 1988 and 2021, let me know if they're good. I'm hungry for documentaries. There was a period where I went through like a true crime phase. And it's funny because, like, well, it's not funny. Let's start there. True crime is such a weird thing for me. It's super popular, and I think the meta shifted a little bit on Twitch, but there, you know, over the summer, early summer at least, it was really popular to, like, react to true crime documentaries. And I was into, you know, Serial and stuff like that, maybe back in 2018... somewhere around there. And this is definitely not like a hipster flex. I don't think those are good enough, quite frankly. It's not a hipster flex like, oh, I was into this murder before it was popular. Because, you know, Unsolved Mysteries, America's Most Wanted, Forensic Files, etc., is... they've been popular for, like, decades. But it's always... It's a prickly thing to talk about because it's like a real-life mystery novel. But it's also, you know, the real-life aspect of that is bizarre to take entertainment value out of because it's real tragedy, you know? Like, every single one of these true crime they don't make too many true crime documentaries that are about, like, shoplifting a candy bar from the grocery store. They're usually, like, there was a tragic murder that, like, shook a small town in Missouri to its core or something like that. So, it is a little weird. I've never really reconciled it. Even though I watch some true crime stuff, there definitely ends up being... Like, there's a little element of, like, cognitive dissonance for me that's like, you know, you're not watching it with popcorn going like, oh, man, like, this is great. You're watching it kind of, like, aghast and horrified, but still, you're like, I'm deriving entertainment value out of, like, a murder of, like, multiple human beings. But anyway, with that context out of the way, I wish I had, like, a nice kind of pin to put in it that's like, oh, and then I just realized it was fine. But no, it's kind of complicated, I guess. But I guess the way some people reconcile it is like, you know, it's like news. You're inoculating yourself from maybe something like that happening in the future. You're realizing that if it were ever to happen, like in your town, the person who, you know, they were nice to everybody. They never said a word wrong. The word wrong, by the way. Then, you know, I'm not saying you should accuse them of being the murderer, but you shouldn't. Hey, I guess it's like it may surprise you who could do some heinous stuff like that, I guess. That's what you end up pulling from some of this stuff. Some of the times you watch it when you're like, that guy's the killer, and then, you know, episode 3, they're like, he's exonerated, and you're like, and then episode 6, they're like, 20 years later, he admitted, and you're like, I knew it! Look at his hat, I knew it. That is the hat of a murderer. But it's funny because like I was into true crime. You know, I'd listen to like true crime podcasts or documentaries before bed. And Kate would kind of make fun of me, and admittedly, it's a little boomer core, you know, I wouldn't disagree with that. But now, like, there's some Korean, like, react channels on YouTube that she watches that are going through, there's really only, like, you know, maybe 250 of these stories that are really, like, fit to turn into true crime entertainment. Or investigations. And so she's like, hey, did you know about this case? And I'm like, oh yeah, he killed them, you know, with a spear gun or whatever. And she's like, spoilers. Like, it's the same, like, you know, handful of crimes are just being, like, dredged up over and over and over again across all these channels. Which is, you know, this is the state of YouTube, and I don't even mean it in a negative way. It's the same thing. Like when I started to get into investing, and you find all these investing channels, and then you realize after like well, that was kind of a rip, I guess. After a couple of months, you realize that they're pretty much all like, hey, Peter Lynch gave a speech at the governor's ball in 1993. You'll never guess what he said about buying stocks at all-time highs, and then it just gets like chopped and screwed and sampled by like 50 different investment channels that just use like Adobe stock footage of like business people shaking hands to tell you what like a PE ratio is and stuff like that. Just it's entertainment, you know. I got no ego. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I have no ego, but I have like no ego that what I do is any more like valid than what many people on YouTube do. Maybe more valid than the people who, just do like Spider-Man and Elsa stuff to game the algorithm. Sure, I mean, there is like the aim here that not just that these videos will get some views, but also that, you might get some enjoyment or enrichment out of them, or some comfort, or maybe you're asleep now, which is also fine. Let's see, brimstone bombs. This is the like one of the rare times once you got a one run that it's important to pay attention. I think it's worth it to take brimstone bombs, mostly because we have so much HP. But brimstone bombs are actually quite nice. Now we could have placed that one in a better location. That's okay. Saved. But in general, I noticed because like I don't know if people thought this is what I was fishing for, and I didn't want to put people like on blast for it, because then you end up spending your whole night on Twitter just like policing other people, right? Not a good use of your time, in my opinion at least. You do you though. Genius move. But Ninja posted like a photo, and it was Ninja the streamer, not the Die Ontward guy. He posted a photo that was like where it started, where it is now. And it's his streaming setup when he was like a news streamer versus his streaming setup now that, he's very popular. And I have remarked that Ninja's before setup looks almost exactly like my current setup, which is true, which is just funny for me. And I didn't mean it as a knock on Ninja at all, who I have poked fun at. He does have some of the funniest tweets I think I've ever seen. The deleted one about, why doesn't the NBA... How is it possible that NBA kickers could still miss? I would like to think if there were millions of dollars on the line, like they could get sports psychologists and like Buddhist monks and stuff like that to train them. It's just a really funny tweet. And of course, the braless wife brought me a sandwich, not asked for. Like, they're really good tweets, but I got genuinely, nothing against the guy. We've never spoken in real life. But when I said that his before photo looks like my current photo, I thought it was actually more than anything else kind of a knock on myself, at least, because I don't really care if I got RGB lighting or anything like that, but I think I'm guilty of caring much more about, just punching the clock and getting some good content out than like, what my stream room looks like. But then a lot of people did take the opportunity to take some snipes at Ninja and be like, well, at least you never sold out, or yeah, at least your content is good. And I'm like, cut that out. Don't do that. I'm making a joke at my own expense. I'm not fishing for a compliment that's like, please insult this stranger that works in the industry on my behalf. But anyway, I know they meant it in a way that was positive to me. Either way, thanks for watching. We got there on that run, and Brimstone Bombs, I think, great pickup. If you enjoyed it, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, though, thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. See ya!